You are in an interview. Everything is going well. And then you hear, "What is your biggest weakness?" The safest answer is not, "I'm a perfectionist," and it is definitely not a dramatic confession. Give them a real weakness that is not essential to the job, explain the system you use to manage it, and finish with recent evidence that the system is working. That answer sounds honest without giving the interviewer a reason to reject you. The mistake most candidates make is treating this question like a trap that must be escaped. They search for a weakness that secretly makes them look impressive. "I work too hard. I care too much. I'm such a perfectionist that I sometimes stay late." Interviewers have heard these answers many times. The problem is not simply that they sound rehearsed. The bigger problem is that they provide no useful evidence of self-awareness. The interviewer is not expecting you to be flawless. They are trying to understand whether you can recognize a limitation, take responsibility for it, and improve how you work. In a structured interview, candidates may be assessed against job-related competencies and consistent standards. Your answer is therefore more useful when it describes an actual behavior instead of an abstract personality label. Think of the question this way. The interviewer is not asking, "What is wrong with you?" They are asking, "When something in your work is not going well, do you notice it? And what do you do next?" A strong answer gives them 3 pieces of information. It identifies the weakness clearly. It shows how you contain the risk. Then it proves that you are making progress. Let's start with choosing the weakness, because this is where an honest answer can become unnecessarily dangerous. Your weakness must be real, but it should not be central to the position. If you are applying for an accounting role, do not say that you frequently miss small numerical errors. If you are applying for sales, do not say that you avoid speaking to new people. If you are interviewing for a management position, do not admit that you struggle to give employees feedback. Those answers attack the basic reason the employer would hire you. Instead, read the job description and identify the 3 or 4 abilities that appear essential. Protect those areas. Then look for a genuine limitation outside that central group. A software developer whose role is mostly individual technical work might discuss presenting to large, non-technical audiences. A graphic designer might discuss estimating the time required for unfamiliar projects. An experienced individual contributor moving into a first supervisory role might discuss learning to delegate routine decisions. Context matters. Public speaking may be a reasonable weakness for one technical role and a serious problem for a training position. Delegation may be acceptable for a first-time manager who is actively developing it, but much harder to defend for a senior director responsible for several teams. Before choosing your answer, ask one question. If the interviewer believes this weakness will continue, can I still perform the core job well? If the answer is no, choose something else. And if you want more practical interview answers with wording you can actually adapt, subscribe. Now let's turn the weakness into an answer that sounds credible. The second part is the system. A weakness without a system sounds like an ongoing risk. Suppose you say, "I sometimes lose track of smaller tasks when I'm busy." That may be honest, but the interviewer is now imagining missed follow-ups, forgotten deadlines, and frustrated coworkers. Do not stop there. Explain the method that prevents the weakness from controlling your performance. You might say, "I used to rely too much on memory for smaller follow-ups. I now capture every commitment in one task list during the meeting, assign a due date before moving on, and review that list at the beginning and end of each day." Notice what changed. The candidate did not claim to have developed a perfect memory. They built a process that makes memory less important. That is what a good containment system does. It can be a checklist, calendar block, template, review step, practice routine, feedback meeting, time limit, or escalation rule. The exact system depends on the weakness, but it must be specific enough that another person can understand how it works. Weak wording sounds like this: "I can be disorganized sometimes, but I'm working on it." A stronger version sounds like this: "Earlier in my career, I sometimes kept project details in too many places. I now use one project tracker for deadlines, owners, and open questions, and I review it with the team twice a week. That has made my follow-through much more consistent." The second answer does not hide the problem. It makes the problem feel managed. Avoid vague improvement claims such as, "I'm trying to be more confident," or "I've been focusing on communication." Those phrases describe an intention, not a change in behavior. Ask yourself what you now do differently on Monday morning because you know this weakness exists. That action belongs in your answer. The third part is recent evidence of improvement. This is what separates a believable answer from a polished promise. Evidence does not always require a dramatic number. It can be a recent project completed on time, a presentation that went more smoothly, feedback from a manager, or a situation in which your system prevented the old problem. For example, imagine a data analyst who has a habit of spending too long polishing early work before asking for feedback. The weak answer would be, my biggest weakness is perfectionism. I just care too much about producing excellent work. Here is the stronger answer. One area I've been improving is sharing early work sooner. I used to spend too long refining an analysis before confirming that I was answering the right business question. Now I schedule a short review after the initial approach and first findings before I polish the final output. On my most recent project, that early review exposed a different stakeholder priority, and I adjusted the analysis before investing time in the final report. This is not fake perfectionism. The candidate names the actual cost. They delayed feedback and risked doing unnecessary work. Then they explain a clear checkpoint and show that it recently helped. Here is another example for someone whose role occasionally requires presentations. A weak answer would be, I'm not a great public speaker. That sounds permanent and unmanaged. A stronger answer would be, presenting technical information to large, non-technical groups has been a development area for me. I noticed that I included too much detail and moved through important points too quickly. I now rehearse with one colleague outside my specialty and ask them to flag jargon or unclear explanations. I've also started opening with the decision the audience needs to make. In my last department presentation, the questions were much more focused, and my manager said the recommendation was easier to follow. Again, the candidate is not claiming the weakness disappeared. They show accurate diagnosis, deliberate practice, and progress. Your answer will usually sound natural if it follows 4 short moves. First, name the area you are improving. Second, explain how it affected your work. Third, describe the system you now use. Fourth, give recent evidence. You could use this adaptable wording. One area I've been working on is blank. I noticed it was affecting blank. To manage that, I now blank. Recently, blank, which showed me that the new approach is helping. Keep the answer focused. You do not need to tell the interviewer every mistake the weakness has caused.
One clear example is enough. This is an interview response, not a confession. There are also 3 types of answers to avoid. The first is the fake strength. This includes perfectionism, caring too much, and working too hard when you cannot explain a genuine downside or corrective action. The second is the fatal weakness. This is a limitation directly connected to the main responsibilities of the job. The third is the uncontained weakness. You admit a real problem but provide no reliable method for controlling it. For example, I sometimes miss deadlines when several projects arrive at once, but I always get everything done eventually. That answer confirms the risk and then minimizes it. A better version would be, when I first started managing several projects, I sometimes reacted to the newest request instead of checking it against existing deadlines. I now confirm the priority, effort, and due date before accepting a new timeline. If there is a conflict, I raise it immediately rather than waiting until the deadline is close. On the last 2 overlapping projects, we adjusted responsibilities early and delivered both as agreed. Be prepared for a follow-up question. The interviewer may ask when the weakness last caused a problem, who gave you feedback, or what improvement still remains. Do not invent a perfect ending. You can say, I'm much more consistent now, although I still use the checklist because it keeps me from slipping back into the old habit. That line can actually strengthen your answer. It shows you understand that improvement often comes from maintaining a good process, not declaring yourself permanently fixed. Before your next interview, prepare 2 possible weaknesses because the wording of the question may change. You might hear, what development area are you working on? Or, what feedback have you received recently? Practice both answers out loud, but do not memorize every word. Remember the 4 moves instead. Name the weakness, explain the impact, describe the system, and provide evidence. The goal is not to transform a weakness into a hidden superpower. The goal is to show that you can see your own behavior clearly and manage it responsibly. A real weakness with a reliable system is usually safer than a fake strength with no substance. If you want help shaping your own answer, leave your weakness and the role you are targeting in the comments. And tell me which interview question you want covered next.